Oh, hello everybody. Welcome to something a little different today. I will be going over some of my own D&D stories back when I was a bright-eyed and bushy-tailed adventurer. This story takes place on the continent of Olean, a tropical island with a mineshaft that had some interesting things going on. The party consisted of Cole the Kobold with split personality disorder, two Genasi sisters, Ariel and Faye, me, and Dakaru the Goliath. Olean was a small island and was run by a gang of Aarakocra known as the Ghouls. After a bit of investigating, me and the party realized that their base of operation was down in the mineshaft. After trying to assess what to do next, our cleric Ariel decides to use her disguise kit and go down alone, which I'm aware is a terrible idea, but at the time we were young. So she decides to disguise herself as an elf, which I'm not sure how that would have made it any better. She descends into the mineshaft and enters a circular room with an elevator on one side and a bunch of crates and supplies on one side. Sitting on top of all of the crates are the Aarakocra gang, the Ghouls. There were 5 members sitting in the room and they all looked extremely powerful. Way more powerful than our single cleric could take on. In a panic, she exclaims how nice of a place it looks while the Ghouls look at her in confusion and suspicion.
"Don't worry, we'll get you in touch with somebody,"
one of the Ghouls explained.
"Our leader, he's on his way. I'm sure he would love to meet you."
As our cleric tries to find a way to make her way out of the mineshaft, she hears the flapping of wings. A massive black hawk Aarakocra lands in front of her with an eye patch and a robotic leg. "I'm the leader here. Nice to meet you, young lady. Grip Steel Feather, at your service." They keep asking her how she made her way down here, clearly trying to find a way to get her to slip up. "Yes, I don't know much about this place. I'm staying at the inn at the other side of the island." After a while, she can see that the Ghouls weren't having it and they were about to descend on her. "Well, you did pass on our turf, so judgment shall be done." They grab our cleric and start pulling her towards the elevator, taking her to God knows where. By some miracle, she's able to pull her way out of the Aarakocra's grasp and into the middle of the room, enough to cast thaumaturgy to yell for help. Me and the party hear this and begin to descend into the mineshaft, but it would take us about 12 seconds to get to her, which would be 2 rounds of combat, so yeah, she was pretty much left there for 2 rounds just trying to defend herself. During these 2 rounds, the Aarakocra are able to grapple her once again and actually get her into the elevator as we enter the room. The elevator begins descending as we run towards it, but we were too late. As we're all scrambling about trying to figure out what to do next, I notice our Goliath friend Dakaru just sauntering over to the elevator shaft. He proceeds to grab the elevator cable and start pulling the elevator back up. Seeing as he had to fight against the friction of the elevator cables, he was doing pretty well. He gets the elevator almost halfway back up the shaft when he rolls a nat 1 in strength and drops the elevator. Now we were all back at square one and had to figure out what to do next. Ariel's sister Faye has an idea to shimmy down the elevator shaft. It was the only option, so we ended up doing it. There was a scary moment when Faye was shimmying down the elevator shaft and failed an athletics roll and fell 60 feet downwards. By some grace of God, she was able to roll well on a recovery roll, but that was terrifying. After a little bit, we get to the bottom of the elevator shaft and enter this big open room with water flooding the floor. All of the Ghouls are there and then proceeds to have the longest and most tedious combat encounter I've ever had. We had extra difficult terrain because this water was actually some sort of mud, so moving around was almost impossible. Meanwhile, the room had really high ceilings so the Ghouls could fly. After, I kid you not, 4 hours of combat, we were finally able to take out every one of the Ghouls. After a few moments of healing each other and trying to gather our bearings, we decided to try and climb back up the elevator shaft to where we came in. We all roll athletics to see how well we can climb back up the elevator shaft. Our Air Genasi cleric just levitated upwards. The Water Genasi Faye already rolled a 20, so she was fine. Cole the Kobold had proficiency in athletics, and Dakaru the Goliath rolled a 17. And then, it comes to me to roll my athletics. I roll the dice, and 7. So my hands begin to slip, and I begin to fall, hitting Dakaru the Goliath, who was underneath me, and we both begin to plummet to our deaths. Keep in mind, we weren't even on the bottom floor. There were more floors underneath. We had no idea how far this mineshaft went down. As I begin to fall, the Air Genasi levitates down and is able to grab me, but Dakaru is still falling. In a panic, he tries to put both of his hands out to each side of him to try and slow his fall. After rolling really well and taking a little bit of damage from friction, he's able to slow his descent. But it doesn't help the fact that he's more than 80 feet down the mineshaft, and we're not sure how we can get to him. Our Air Genasi Ariel tries to levitate downwards to help him, but unfortunately Dakaru is way too heavy for her to carry. Not to mention that Dakaru still has to roll strength checks to make sure he can hold onto the walls, so we are very pressed for time. In an absolute panic, our kobold realizes we all have 50 feet of rope on us. And if we can climb to the top of the mineshaft and tie our ropes together, we can get around 150 feet of rope. As we begin climbing, the worst happens. As we begin climbing up the mineshaft, me and Cole both succeed our athletics checks, but Faye was not so lucky. Faye slips and begins to fall. Not only that, Dakaru failed his strength check and also began to fall. And because Faye is Ariel's sister, Ariel has to ditch Dakaru to go and save her. Which, I know, but come on, you would do the same thing. The minute me and Cole get to the top, we are tying our ropes together furiously and quickly. Ariel is able to catch Faye from falling, and Dakaru is still descending. He rolls his athletics and is able to get a natural 20. As Dakaru slows his descent and Ariel is able to catch Faye, me and Cole both let our ropes down the mineshaft. And with the help of a miracle and perfect timing, we were able to get everybody out of the mineshaft unscathed. Well, kind of. I mean, Dakaru did have like 3rd-degree burns on his hands, and yeah. I mean, he's a Goliath. He can take it. After that, we made a beeline back to the inn on the other side of the island, and that is why I never go underground. The moral of this story is don't be stupid, because falling damage is instant death if it's far enough. Unless you have featherfall or anything else that can slow your descent, but you get the point. Anyway, students, thank you for tuning into my D&D stories. I had a good time reminiscing about the good old days of adventuring with all of you, and I will see you all next class.